The Flash from Warner Brothers and DC is done at the box office, dead and buried. And it looks like, from Disney and Lucasfilm, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is going to be placed in a financial coffin right next to it.
That's according to a number crunch by prominent YouTuber Valiant Renegade.
Here we go. Renegade Online. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's good to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and turn that little red subscribe button to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment before you head out the door today. First up, of course, is The Flash. Let's do a post-mortem on this because the box office for this film appears to be largely done at this point. And yes, I do mean largely done even after only 10 days or so in release. That's 2 weekends and this movie's toast. You can see right here, cumulatively, the domestic box office stands at $89 million. That's through Monday, the 11th day in release. And the international box office is the first full 10 days, including 2 weekends overseas. And this $212 million cumulative haul at this point is not likely to get all that much better because, frankly, this movie has completely run out of steam. And with a $200 million initial budget, but what is suspected to be closer to $300 million final spend after massive amounts of reshoots, massive amounts of redos and post-production from those reshoots, and probably at least another $150 million marketing spend from Warner Brothers, this movie is set to lose, as we projected, somewhere to the tune of about $250 million or more for Warner. Now, what's noteworthy about The Flash's box office performance is what you can see here on this chart. And quite honestly, I don't think Indiana Jones is going to look terribly different than this. An opening weekend of $55 million and a second weekend of $15 million. That's a 72% tank for this film. And 72% would be a lot for a movie that started with $100 million or more. This movie started with half of that and still had a drop that was that bad. This means that the audiences who wanted to see this film all front-loaded into the box office, and then that was basically it. There was nothing left. There was no good word of mouth. Nobody else had the energy to go see this, and that could happen to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And this article from Deadline magazine bears that out. This, yesterday afternoon, from Anthony DeAlessandro and Nancy Tartaglione, the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny to whip up a $140+ million global open. Yeah, $140 million global, not domestic. $140 million domestically is what this movie would really need as a solid opening to have a shot at breaking even. We're talking about $140 million across the entire globe, and guess what? China's basically off the table. It only had about 50,000 US dollar equivalent of ticket sales coming into this weekend. They are expecting the Chinese box office for Indiana Jones to look similar to The Little Mermaid, which after a month in China hasn't even racked up $4 million yet. So let's read some excerpts from the article, and then we're going to talk about what I think this movie is ultimately going to wind up making at the box office and how much money the Walt Disney Company will stand to lose if that actually comes to fruition. Facing the worst reviews ever for an Indiana Jones movie, the Lucasfilm franchise finale, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, is hoping to gain traction with audiences and best its $60 to $65 million projected domestic start and $140 million global opening. If the post-pandemic era has proved anything, it's that popcorn picks aren't so beholden to the Rotten Tomatoes barometer. Jurassic World Dominion was shot down by reviewers, but it still managed to have a $145 million domestic opening. And to be clear, this outlook is for the 3-day weekend, not the extended 5-day frame, which would be Friday through Tuesday, because Tuesday, of course, July the 4th, is Independence Day, big holiday here in the U.S. for all of our international viewers. But DeAlessandro and Tartaglione also point out that as it is standard for July 4th, moviegoing in the U.S. slows down due to festive activities, so don't expect much money for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny on that day. Now, of course, the biggest self-inflicted wound for this movie up to this point in terms of marketing was releasing it about a month ago at Cannes in France, and then allowing the review embargo to lift. And those reviews that came out of that early screening were atrocious. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny's 3-day haul will, of course, be down from the $100 million 3-day domestic open of the previous movie, 2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yeah, you read that right. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull opened 15 years ago and hauled in $100 million on its opening weekend. If you do some quick math on ticket price inflation, not CPI, but ticket price inflation, you'll find that ticket prices are up well north of 50% in many cases since then. So that $100 million opening in 2008 is about the same as a $150 million opening or more today if you put the same number of butts and seats with today's ticket prices. Yeah, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is looking to come in somewhere between half and a third of a movie in terms of butts in seats from 15 years ago. This is a disaster. A $60 million US and Canada opening is in the vicinity of older skewing dude movies like 2021's No Time to Die and 2018's Mission Impossible Fallout. If Indy 5 is going to break out, it needs the young people to show up. The over 50 male demo is expected to show, but this isn't a property like Star Wars that has been able to bring along the young set as well as play broadly in the demographics. The problem with comparing it to other movies like that, if you want to throw in Top Gun Maverick, if you want to throw in Fallout, if you want to throw in other films that bring in the older crowd, things like John Wick, the problem, of course, is that people go see those kind of movies. They like the movies. They all got positive word of mouth or expected to get positive word of mouth in the case of ones coming up, like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, just 12 days after Indiana Jones drops. Well, those movies bring in legged-out audiences. Right now, the concern is that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is probably not going to leg out very well just because of the sour response from so many people. And if the folks that go see it this weekend largely concur with the reviews that have come out to this point, this movie is a turkey. And yes, as I just mentioned, only 12 days after Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny drops, we're going to get Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Now, had it not been for Top Gun Maverick's massive success last year, I don't know if this movie would have had as big an impact or could potentially have as big of an impact as it does against Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny's second, third, fourth weekends. But given the popularity of that film from last year, there is a lot of people who are looking at this movie right here as a successor in spirit to Top Gun Maverick, and that could drive big audiences for weeks to this film, taking Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny off the shelf earlier than Disney would like. But here we are, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And let me scroll so you can see very clearly the problem with this film. Production budget at $300 million. And folks, that's $300 million that we know of. That was reported by Forbes magazine after collecting UK tax reporting data just a few months ago. That means that $300 million is what was spent to create Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny up to December 31st of 2022. Any post-production work, any reshoots, any editing, any future VFX that was done after that point, well, it's not included in this figure. This figure could actually rise even higher to 325, maybe 350. We just don't know. But as of right now, let's assume $300 million is the ultimate spend, which it may wind up being regardless due to film tax credits. If Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny actually breaks out with $140 million globally, and we presume even a generous 2.5x run out from there, given the bad reviews coming in, which of course could change after opening weekend, we'll see. But let's assume that that goes to 2.5x. That's going to put the final box office haul for this film probably somewhere around $350 million. If it goes a full 3x, we're going to be a little over $400 million. And that competition that comes out against Indiana Jones in the next couple of weeks is going to tell the tale. But even at $420 million global box office haul, that's going to be about $200 million coming back to the Walt Disney Company as the distributor. That means that effectively they will have recovered their marketing expenses, which probably are going to be in the range of $150+ million for a film like this, but virtually all of the production budget will be lost. That means that the Walt Disney Company at that range, at the $400 million total box office range, is going to lose somewhere to the tune of about $250 to $300 million on a film like this. Another notch in Disney's belt of failure. We can add that to the tally that I did in a recent video just about a week ago at this point, with a nearly $890 million box office loss beginning with Lightyear last year in June. Now Indiana Jones will finish out June of this year. We'll see how high that $890 million climbs to after this one, folks. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Stay tuned. We're going to be covering the box office for this film this weekend as the news comes out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear from you. Are you going to see this movie? Are you skipping it? Do you even care? What do you think the box office is going to wind up being for this film on opening weekend and during its total run? Give me your guesses. And until next time, take care.